it's a dire situation, and it looks like it will only get worse. So we do only have, a few more years until it's going to really decline. So we need to get the rhinos out now.
So, the quicker that we get some sort of a population to Australia, if we can find the right habitat, the better. Why are we debating it? Why aren't they on the aeroplane now? I'll give up my seat.
To Australia, it's thinking out of the box. That's potential saving of the species. In my opinion, I think it's a brilliant idea.
It absolutely has to go ahead.
The ongoing nature, the relentlessness of this, fighting an enemy of the rhino that has no rules, that has no law.
And we are facing, in the wild anyway, an extinction level event if we do not find ways to address the scourge of poaching.
This is a war where the enemy are well organised, heavily funded, often heavily armed, highly motivated, and brutal about their objectives. It is also a deeply complicated story.
In Vietnam, rhino horn sells for up to $90,000 a kilogram. It's become a status symbol among the burgeoning wealthy elite.
If you do not address what's happening on the demand side, we can't address what's on the supply side. We've got the issues of corruption, we've got the issue of transnational organised crime, which is the new kid on the block. And these guys have complicated things because really they see rhino horn as nothing more than a commodity. Whether it be drugs, humans, rifles, whatever they're moving around, it's a commodity and they want to make money from it.
Last year in this park we had the feed of 4,500 poachers, conservatively.
Of 1,215 rhinos slaughtered last year in South Africa, more than 800 were killed in Kruger National Park.
You lose Kruger, that's the triumph of evil over good.
Along a 350-kilometre border with Kruger, Mozambique has entire villages existing on poaching.
It is not acceptable. We cannot lose Kruger and we cannot lose the rhino.
So how can we make the world understand the daily horrors of this trade?
Our challenge is to make a live rhino more valuable than a dead rhino. To convince these people that you can benefit more from the wildlife economy in the long term than from now till the rhino is theoretically extinct. And that's our challenge. And how do you tell a poor person that and a ruthless poacher boss that?
Then there are the gems like Petronelle Niewart, a mum to 21 rhino orphans running Care for Wild Africa.
And she really is the rhino whisperer.
And these wonderful women, in terms of what they do in terms of protecting them. You just think of, what the trauma that these things must go through. It's got to leave a kind of a dent for years, don't you think?
His mother was poached when he was just a day or two old, and he tried to protect his mother as best he could, and because of that he was hit with machetes all over his face. He was just 50 kilos less. So for some human being to do that to an innocent creature, that's more just, it does. It's emotionally, it's very hard.
Draining.
Yes.
Yep. His mom, back was hacked off.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and she still lived for 4 days after that.
So he just stood by her?
He stood by her.
When you're up close and personal with these creatures like this, you just wonder how on earth any human being could harm them in any way. They're just like these little dogs, and they love their pats from Morgan and Petronelle. You're a beauty, aren't you? Wow, what a special privilege. What a privilege. Isn't she beautiful? How could anyone hurt your mama? How could anyone hurt you? So this little girl had her mum poached, and this one, Winter, lost his ears to a hyena. Poor darling.
We need to move these animals. That's a fact. We have to move these animals until we can find a solution. And the only place at the moment with people that's so enthusiastic, so passionate, is to take them to Australia.
it's not just ours and theirs, it's everybody's rhinos. It's not, and it's everybody's elephants, it's everybody's heritage. And that's what we're trying to instill, to say we need to do this together. It's not a us and them situation, a conservation, non-conservation area. Everybody coming together and everybody understanding the value of what we have here in a conservation area and spreading it out from there.
We know in the 1980s, Zimbabwe moved black rhinos into the United States and Australia. It's easy, we know how to do it, because the veterinary expertise exists.
Let's just get out there and do the work. Let's try something.
Certainly an initiative like Ray's deserves all the support it can get. Whatever we're doing up until now is not working.
And I personally can just not see why, if any place on the planet there is a home for rhino, one would not establish them there. And if there's an empty space somewhere and it's managed well, and the ecology and the conservation side is ticked off, as well as the security part of, my personal opinion is that I would think it's good for the rhino. Not good for the rhino, is good for me.
It's a national issue in South Africa, but can only be addressed through international cooperation. We can't do it alone.
Ultimately, we talk about poaching, we talk about graphs and figures and escalation in numbers, but end of the day, it's about animals that are suffering an enormous degree of brutality and hurt and pain.
Let us lend you whatever it might be. Look after them for us. Be our custodians of them, that if we really cock it up, you know, we've got something that we can come back to say, can we repopulate? So that I believe is not admitting we've got defeat, it's admitting we have a problem. And there's a way to solve the problem by embracing somebody who wants to help us solve the problem. So let's stop talking about it. Let's make it happen.